back, I can't believe how people let me take care of 8 little 5-year-olds. I was 16 at the time, and being a grown-up now, I don't know, I have an 11-year-old, and I wouldn't trust him to a 16-year-old. It was an awesome job. And the only job I'd ever had before that was working at A&W, so somehow I was allowed to watch children. But in the 3 summers that I did that job, I never lost a single kid. I learned to help those kids swim and change for swimming, how to sing the words to the camp songs, and it was awesome. And for the first time, I learned what it was to support a child with a disability. Now, this was the 80s, and integration was a thing, but barely. In my public high school, there was a class down the hall where all the special needs kids were, and we were cool with that, but we weren't integrated. They were just there. So at day camp each week, a new pack of little campers were dropped off and assigned to the camp counselors. And one of the kids who showed up off the bus was in a wheelchair and was nonverbal. So now not only am I caring for a bunch of tiny little kids, but one of them is in a wheelchair and nonverbal. And how was I supposed to take her swimming? Never mind help her to go swimming. How was I supposed to teach her the words to camp songs when she couldn't speak? And that's the day I remember a switch in my brain flipped. Something changed. I remember thinking, it's sort of one of those do or die moments, but that it was just going to be okay. So we had an awesome week. All of the kids ended up learning to change to go swimming, and I helped the ones that needed help, and some needed more than others. All the kids learned the words to the camp songs, even the kid who couldn't speak, because as a group, we figured out, let's add gestures to the song. So we all got it done. But the biggest thing that I learned that week was not just that the kid who had the disability belonged there, but my aha moment was seeing that it was what the other kids saw. That differences are a fact sometimes, and that there's not a moment of pity to be had. None of those other kids in the group were pitying this person because she was a wheelchair user. It was just a fact, and we found ways around that. Other kids who were mobile needed some more help than even she did at times. And the fact is that differences are okay. They're not necessarily to be ignored either. If we had ignored that she was nonverbal, we would have just stood in a little circle around her and sang the camp song, thinking that that was inclusion. But instead, we figured out a way to get it done together. So from then on, I've always found a way to see an issue and try and make it a little bit better. Look on the bright side, see the silver lining. And yeah, I'm the person that always gives a water bottle to the guy on the street corner on a hot summer day. I carry a first aid kit in my car and keep my first aid up to date with my training. And unfortunately, I've had to use it a few times. So I went to university. I worked up north in northern Manitoba, Nunavut, all over the place. But for the last 20 years or so, I've worked with the government, supporting families who have a child diagnosed with a disability or autism spectrum disorder. So I see an issue, and I help make it a little bit better. I helped a man avoid dehydration, maybe, not a big thing, just a little thing. I help a mother fill out a school registration form, maybe not a big thing, but it's a little help. So back to February 2016, standing in that huge room full of people that were all hurting, healing, but have been through something so difficult. And they were telling me their stories. I was recording their words, me writing it down, asking them questions to gather more information about their experiences. I asked them about their police interactions, media reports, the waiting and the hoping. I asked them about the things that their families had done to try and solve the issues or crimes that they had been going through. And at the end of that day, there was nothing I could do or say to make it any better. There was no bright side, there was no silver lining, nothing. In fact, I felt like I hurt them further by having them tell me their story. Again, because I'm sure they told many people before that. And I had nothing. I wanted to find a way, just a small way to make it something better. But there was no $5 donation, there was no hug, there was no volunteer hours I could do to make any of that a little bit better. I couldn't feel it, I couldn't see it. So I lived with that sort of resting in the back of my head. And then one day, a couple weeks, almost a few months later, a friend of a friend mentioned that she was volunteering with a Safe Ride group that picked up women and drove them where they wanted to go, and it was because of these other people that saw a problem. So I found it. I thought, this is it. This will make it feel a little bit balanced in my head at least. So I joined. I did a few rides, and it started to feel right. And I did those few rides in my spare time between my full-time job, my part-time job, raising my super son, and all the other cool things that I do. And I thought doing a few rides a week might save somebody's life. It might prevent a family from going to have to tell that story sometime in the future. And it sounds so huge, but it's just a small thing, maybe because it wasn't saving a life, maybe it was just getting somebody where they wanted to go without being made to feel like that. So far, 50 women drivers, 62,000 rides so far. We've done a lot of things. We laugh and we cry. We hear the stories of women and what they've suffered, not just in taxis, but in life. Because there's something intimate about sitting in the passenger seat of a vehicle with somebody, no eye contact, and I hope there's more laughs than anything else, but we hear their stories, and we hear about their lives, and we share a bit of our lives as well. Sometimes those women aren't necessarily brought to work or a doctor's appointment. Sometimes we get to take women and their children to the beach for the very first time in that kid's life. Not because they couldn't afford to pay a taxi to take them to Grand Beach or Birdsville Park. They wouldn't feel safe doing that. We help take women to meet their biological moms for the first time, visit their dying grandparents in the hospital, or maybe their husband in jail. And the more I spoke about the group, I realized that, like when I was in day camp, it was not the members that were getting driven to their destinations that were getting the most out of it. It was us, the volunteers, 2 of which are here. We get the most out of it. And not just the volunteers, but also the observers of giving and doing those little things. And like somebody said earlier, it's so frustrating when you see something that you can do something little, and these women show up every day and they do something little, but it's like that pebble in the water, it spreads. So it's the volunteers, the observers, and maybe even the taxi industry that's changing a little because of the things that we do. It's not about the safe alternative to taking a taxi, period, end of story. No, it's about seeing an issue and trying to make it just a bit better. Take action, even a tiny action, and see how it affects everything. Sometimes a tiny action can open doors for more. For me, it led me to working with the city on bylaws, to supporting the taxi industry to make change. Again, changes that not only are meant to support the customers, but the drivers and the owners as well. It led me here to you today. It led me to politics and running for MLA. And it leads me to who knows what other beautiful things in the future. So that woman in the taxi earlier, it was a true story. Those 3 sort of comments that were all wrapped into one might not have happened all in the same ride, but it happens, and it happens a lot. Not with all taxi drivers. There are amazing, helpful, kind taxi drivers. So I don't want to bash the whole industry, but it's the change and other people that need to help make that change happen. So that woman that got in that taxi, she was on her way actually to see her granny for the first time. That was the first time that she was taking her newborn baby out of the home other than when the baby was born at the hospital. So, yeah, so this was the other ride that she took. She took the taxi to get to Granny, and here she is going home. Your Equay ride has arrived. Can I help you get in the car? Welcome. Where are we going today? You're going home? Awesome. Cute baby. How old's your baby? 3 weeks old. Congratulations. Is this your first time with this Safe Ride? I'm so sorry that happened to you this morning. Oh. Well, we're at your destination. Thank you so much for your donation, and thank you very much for listening to my story.